Hello everyone, Storm Woolen here. Today we'll be starting our a live stream again. I kind of want to do this because there's multiple things to talk about in this live stream here. I'm going to go on ahead and try to get chat up real quick. Hopefully I can. Let's see here. There we go. So I got the chat. So what we're going to be talking about in this live stream, we'll be updating on the pre-Thanksgiving winters on the system there. We're also going to have to keep keeping an eye on the winter forecast there, because there's probably going to be some changes that need to be made because of some new factors that just came in here. So we'll look into those things. But first, let's go ahead and get started on the system we're going to be watching here on the pre-Thanksgiving. But let's kind of look for the European model before it happens. We got a couple systems that got to watch for a moment. You can see here there's a little bit of snow in Kansas there. We should start to see a system to develop over Louisiana here in a moment. You do have some of the cold air in place. There it is. So there's your low pressure system there. As that moisture does reach on the northern and western side into the cold air, you do get a mix of rain and snow. You can see there, the European model is having a weak solution here, but I kind of have to agree a little bit on this one here. You know, the northeast here may be able to get a weak nor'easter on this one here. And as whenever that passes, let's move on to the west here. So here's Monday. Not much going on. You do have a clipper system that goes by up in Wisconsin. Then you start to get a low pressure system that comes out of Rockies here. And that should start to gain some strength. Here it's got a decent amount of snow with it. You can see here for Tuesday, it's in Arkansas. Then it starts to move northeast here. So there's been some changes to the forecast here with this pre-Thanksgiving system. Very heavy snow. Yeah, that is some pretty heavy snow with that system there. I call that bombing out. It does have some really good winds with it as well. Some pretty decent winds. If we back it up, hit with wind gust, you should see here, as the low starts to deepen, the winds do increase. Especially when it reaches to Indiana, you got winds gusting up to 65 miles per hour. It's just blizzard conditions for like Chicago and Detroit, and probably even Toronto as well. Just a massive system whenever it gets up to the northeast there. So the main threats at this point here is blizzard conditions. I'll say the cities that I got to keep an eye on the system is probably going to be cities like St. Louis, Chicago, Detroit, Indianapolis. Those type of cities there. Probably have to keep an eye on this one here. And you can see it moves out. What are the snowfall amounts with this here? What does the Euro show? So here we are looking into the next 10 days here. You got a really nice swath of over a foot of snow. That could be a little bit underdone there, especially how heavy the snow is. That ground should be cold enough for snow to stick pretty easily with that heavy snow. You can see some of the heaviest amounts, like the amounts of Colorado there, could be up to 35 inches of snow, which is a lot. And we can move on to the GFS model here. I'm going to go ahead and let this play out here. So there goes by this system right here. That could be another nor'easter there, maybe a mini winter storm there. It seems like snowfall amounts have been going up around Ohio there, which is kind of interesting. Then you should start to see your system is currently over Texas here. And you can see the snow track of this here. And it's already gone. here's your snow swath. I do believe this is underdone. With the snowfall amounts, I think you could probably see up to 10 to the foot inches of snow with this system here. At this point here, we're still a few days out with this system here, so things could change more. I actually do want to show you guys the CMC model here. Can you find where the system is? You know what? The CMC solution, it's actually not there. It really isn't. It actually is like over here in Northern Plains, which is a big time bias there. I highly doubt that solution there. And you know, the first thing I said here, bringing that winter storm potential up in Minnesota, Wisconsin, I just realized there's not really much of high pressure over here. It's very weak, so we can probably expect this to move east, which it actually did. In fact, and you know, the European model actually had it pretty far east. It was actually as far east as like an Appalachian runner. You actually had some heavy snowfall amounts across parts of Ohio and Pennsylvania there. And it's also weaker as well, which is pretty interesting there. I don't think it's going to bomb out too much. And there is some other news right now. I forgot to talk to you guys about this twice in a row. The hurricane season. We do have Tropical Storm Sebastian here. It is very, very unorganized here. If I do show you the satellite imagery, all the storms are actually on the eastern side. I mean, you can actually tell where the center of the storm is. Right now it's 60 miles per hour here, and it's not expected to hit land at this time here. It'll be more of a fish storm. It may be a threat to Bermuda, but we'll see about that. I think Bermuda will just be fine with this here. And let's move on to winter. There are some new factors that came in. Let's first take a look onto the Jamstack model here because it did get its latest update here for November. I'm planning on to make some changes to the forecast here, which I did make a map last night to have an idea with it. So here's your updated Jamstack model here for the winter. So let me get my pin out here. So what you got going on here, you have a positive PDO over here, but it's not as strong like it was before from the Jamstack model here. But you can see it is just so warm over Greenland and in parts of Canada, which is pretty ridiculous here. You also want to notice here, there's actually some warm waters here that can really change the setup here. A little bit of warmth up here as well. And that's the big change to this, is actually these states right here has a big change to the forecast here that I'm planning on to make. And I'll make a map for you guys very quick. But we really got to keep an eye for those areas there, because what I've learned from Weather Decoded, he said about these warm waters here, you can get some really big storms here that can, basically the jet stream could be like that, your storm track at least. You can actually get some big blizzard conditions for the Ohio Valley here, which that's actually my thinking here. I think the jackpot area is probably going to be in the Ohio Valley and not really much for the interior northeast here because of these warm waters here, and that kind of pushes the system a little bit further inland as well with that jet stream kind of pattern. So that kind of makes the east coast here pretty much maybe near neutral conditions for temperatures, but the precipitation will still be above average no matter what here. I think the way the jet stream is going to go here, this is kind of my new thing at the jet stream here. So it kind of starts up here, or maybe kind of down like this here, and that's going to be kind of questionable here, especially for this here. A big blob of the PDO. I think the jet stream pattern is going to be something like that here, and the big snows could be just for the Ohio Valley, maybe even to the Great Lakes region as well. There. At least that's my thinking at this point here. Now I am going to show you the Kansas model and as well as the CFS here in a little bit. Here's your precipitation anomalies here. As we look into here, we do have slightly above average precipitation right here, which I do agree with this solution here. There's actually some slightly above average precipitation from the northwest here. That kind of comes in part with the jet stream here. Let me actually take some of the stuff off. We do have drier conditions for the desert southwest, most of California, and even up here. So what this is telling me here is your jet stream is going to be kind of coming in something like this here with that precipitation here. It's not as above average like the last update was. It kind of went down here, but it's still above average. Now, some of you guys may be waiting for is actually the temperatures. Still pretty much the same here. So you got cooler than average temperatures for much of the central and eastern United States. It's actually a little bit warmer up here. And it's pretty warm across the west coast there. Hello, Derek Reader. First question on the stream. What about Chambersburg, Pennsylvania? I do not know where that is. If you could give me nearby a city or part of the state, I can probably tell you that, because Pennsylvania is probably have two different things. If you live on the east side of Pennsylvania, you could probably have the coldest of the snowiest, one of the coldest, well, not coldest, but one of the snowiest winters. And if you're on the, like near the east coast there, on the eastern side of Pennsylvania, you could probably just get probably slightly above average snowfall, and you have maybe more than average temperatures there, and it could be more wet than anything there. At least that's my thinking there. If you're in central Pennsylvania, it's going to be kind of in between here. That's going to be a little bit of a winter battle zone there, I would call it. There could be a mix, could be rain, it could be snow. Just my thinking on that. And it could be a challenge for the Northeast here. So there's the Jamstack model there, and let's go ahead and make a tab here. There's Sebastian there. Let's move on to the tropical tidbits here again. And let's look into the CFS monthly here. So we're going to go month by month here. So this is December here. So this is one of the first months here. Keep an eye on these lines here. Don't worry too much about these colors here. Don't worry about that. Basically what this is temperatures up in the atmosphere here. Basically. So what we're kind of going on here, we do have a little bit of a ridging across the southwest here. So this is probably a pattern change coming up here. And however, for the east here, these guys here actually may just get some cold and snowy weather, while down here could be wet and probably a little bit warmer as well, because we actually may have high pressure building up here in the southeast here. And what this can do here, especially for these areas right up here, those warm waters here, these areas here can really make a bullseye for maybe some winter storms there. And that's where we're kind of waiting for here, is having another pattern change where the west is going to be warm again, as we are expecting here. And while the east here, or at least for these areas here, will be cold, and this area here will be very active here. That's kind of where we're expecting here later on. It just has not happened yet. So far, at least for December so far here, I think it's going to be along the I-40 corridor, which follows along right there. That's kind of your I-40 corridor there. In those areas there for December, at least the first half of December could be wet and cold for these areas here. And at least maybe for some of these areas right up here, the GFS has been showing this type of signal for a while, that there could be maybe an ice storm or a snowstorm. But that's just a bunch of voodoo stuff, which that means it's just too far out to talk about there. But it's been showing it for quite some time. So, and it's also been showing just a big time trough here as well for December here, the GFS here. While over here, it's just going to be pretty active here, I would say here, for low pressure systems to develop. And keep in mind here, guys, I just learned that the Pacific all the way down here is kind of opened up with moisture here. So what could happen here is you got moisture coming in to the eastern United States here, and what that kind of places in for is if you got low pressure system develops here and it kind of moves on like this here, you got plenty of moisture. You don't have to worry much about it. The only thing you need to worry about is actually where the cold air placement's going to be, because if you got the cold air in place, you can probably have a big time winter storm for some of these areas there that I just circled there. Probably not that far far south for Arkansas, Louisiana, and Texas there for December. Now, one way I could tell how the jet stream is going to go is actually the precipitation. So you can see here your precipitation here. Get my pen out here. It looks to be dry, desert southwest here, very wet. The northwest here, and just balmy wet for most of the east here. And where you got the trough kind of place, which is pretty much right up here. It could be snowy in the northern Rockies, and it could be snowy for these areas here, where you got that jet stream kind of place here. So basically your low pressure track could be something like this here. Probably get quite a bit of snow there. I mean, just so many factors into this here. Let me show you how the jet stream is looking like just by precipitation. Seems like your lows is going to track something like this here. And this area here is going to have to really keep an eye on it. Even here and probably even here. Really got to keep an eye on it. I'll make a December forecast very soon here, sometime next week here. My channel. So there's your December there. Let's move on to January here. Still wet here for these areas here, but we're going to have to take a look into the temperature anomalies in a little bit, or the trough and the ridges here. It's actually a little bit drier at the New England there. So, yeah, a little bit dry, at least on the west coast and by the Mexican border there. So pretty much a very similar pattern here. Probably a little bit. I don't think you will see less snow in January up in the northwest here, because high pressure should start to take over. The PDO should really start to take over. So you're probably going to see mostly rain up in the northwest there. Maybe a little bit of mountain snow. But still here, what the jet stream's looking like, it could be, jet stream can actually be something like that there. And it could be maybe some big snows here. This is what I'm kind of talking about here, especially when I look into this here. Whenever it's dry up here, you're probably not going to see that much snow up in New England here. And as this kind of curves here, your snow bullseye is actually kind of right in here in the Ohio Valley there. So far here, the bullseye at this point here has been pretty much for these areas here for this winter here, as we in January there. We'll move back into the hot anomalies here. Now keep in mind here, keep an eye on the lines here. The lines is what matters here. So here's your lines here. You can see here, you actually do have a little bit of a trough in the, kind of more in these areas here, a little bit of a trough here. We actually got a kind of a big time ridge up in here in the west there. So what this kind of indicates here, it could be warm out in the west area, maybe a little bit drier. However, over here though, as you look into the precipitation, your jet stream is kind of something like this here. You kind of have your cold air in place right in here, so your bullseye is kind of in the Ohio Valley again there. So let's move on into February. Now we got, now it really that ridge out in the west really starts to show up there. So it's probably very warm and dry out in the west here. You can tell here your jet stream will probably be something more like this here, or it can actually be your jet stream is probably like this here, and your snow area here probably kind of bullseyes these areas here. And again, the Ohio Valley and probably in the northeast here. So maybe January there for the northeast there probably have a little bit quieter conditions. Well, not really, but you could probably see some precipitation there. I'll say more average there. But we'll see what the precipitation anomalies do show. Sorry I've got to go back and forth on this here. Whoops, went a little bit too far here. Alright, so again, it's still wet right in here. You can see northwest is a little bit wet, very dry in the desert southwest there. This is something I do agree a little bit here. It's actually starting to get dry here, which I can understand that because your trough is actually a little bit further up to the north here. And again, your bullseye here is where I just circled right in here. Probably the bullseye for some of your snowy areas there. And again, with those warm waters there, is going to be really a big question here is with these warm waters here. I think it'd be pretty warm right here, but it's going to be kind of questionable over here because what these warm waters can do here is make these systems here be stronger here. You can actually have blizzard conditions for the Ohio Valley here. I mean, that is just something I learned from Weather Dakota here, and that's what my forecast is actually trending towards here. So the jackpot I've originally put in, the jackpot is actually originally for these areas right in here that I just circled. Now I'm going to put in a different color. I'm going to put in red. This is the new jackpot area. Your new jackpot area looks to be a little bit further interior here. Especially this area here. So your blue was the old jackpot area, and the red is actually my newly forecasted jackpot area here. And this jackpot area may actually have to be moved into the Great Lakes region there because of, actually, yeah, I almost forgot about lake effect snow here, so let me draw this here again. There's your new jackpot area right there. It bullseyes the Ohio Valley and even up to the Great Lakes region just because of lake effect snow there. And you can even have some systems that can bring us some pretty decent snows up there. And I think for lake effect snow wise, I think it could be slightly above average. So I'm going to check outside real quick. It seems like it's gone pretty windy outside all of a sudden. We're expected to get some wind today. It just came in late. So, yeah, guys, if y'all guys got any questions, you could go ahead and put it in the chat. This is pretty much what I got for you guys here. We did get one question in, which is pretty nice. If y'all did like this live stream, you can hit that like button as well here. Man, it just got really windy. I'm going to open up my blinds here. Yeah, it was not this windy earlier when I was coming home, which that was about 30 minutes ago. It was definitely not this windy here. The problem is here with that pre-Thanksgiving system here. What could happen here is with the trees having no leaves here, the winds can actually be stronger in the summertime because with these trees here, since they got no leaves, the winds are just going right through them. So you can actually have some better chance of power outages here, which is probably going to be a major issue there. And some of these trees here in my area do still have leaves on it. which I'm pretty surprised because we have ridiculous freezes. I'm talking about freezes that was in the teens here. So yeah, it seems like you're all not probably going to answer any more questions here. Let's see if I haven't forget anything here. Oh yeah, there's something I need to talk about here, and it's this Children's Online Privacy Protection Act. What this is basically this is going to affect all YouTubers here, including me. Now I do have options here. There, you got two choices pretty much here. I don't know what the third choice does. There's actually three, and I'm going to tell you two choices. If you say yes, if it's child friendly, you will lose some things. I do believe you can lose live streaming. You can actually lose comments as well, which is very unfortunate because I know you guys will have questions with this here. If I say no, you may have some issues. I don't quite remember what it is, but I know it's also bad. So it's basically a lose-lose here. And this is probably going to affect my channel here. It's going to affect the weather communities. Some YouTubers, some popular YouTubers already talk about this, but not a lot. But this here should be talked about more because this is going to affect January of 2020 on the 1st here. So the beginning of the year of 2020, it's in effect. So something that I just need to talk about. I need to kind of think about things here. And there's also been some other news that on the Twitter feed here that YouTube may potentially delete YouTubers that do not make money, which I am one of them, very unfortunately. So if you really want to help me with this channel here, what I'm trying to say here is losing my words. If you really want to help my channel here, you got to subscribe to me. That's the only way to do it. The only way I can get ads on my videos here, I gotta reach over 1,000 subscribers, which I'm pretty far away. The good news is I'm a little bit of a steady pace, about a subscriber or two a day, which is good news for me. I currently have, I do believe, about 190 subscribers here. So if you want to help me support the channel here, you can hit the subscribe button. It really helps. I do need a certain amount of views per video as well for ad monetization. So yeah, and I don't think you guys are going to have any more questions, so I'm going to end it here, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed this live stream, an update on the pre-Thanksgiving storm in the winter 2019-2020. If you all did like this video, hit that like button. If you do like my channel, hit that subscribe button. Hit that bell notification if you miss an upload. If you all guys got any questions about this, watching as a video, you can put in the comment section down below. I answer you guys questions. I'll see you guys in the next video. Goodbye.